Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and welcome to another LEGO Awards video for 2023, the show where I count down the best of the best that LEGO made this year in 2023. Last time we took a look at the $20 to $50 set category, so now we're going to be taking a look at the top 10 best LEGO sets over $50, but $100 or under, because once we get over that $100 range, it gets crazy. So there are a lot of really good sets in this price range, and I'm really curious to hear your thoughts as well. So do let me know down in the comments what were your favorite sets in this price bracket, and I'm very curious to see if your list matches up with mine. And so without further ado, let's jump right into number 10. At number 10, we have an entry from LEGO Friends. Set number 41747 is the Heart Lake City Community Kitchen, retailing at a baffling $68 US, which I feel like is kind of a result of price increases. The reason why I love the Heart Lake City Community Kitchen, which is the purple building you can see on the right there, is that it allows it to interface in a fully modular system with the larger LEGO Friends buildings, and that is something I really appreciate. Having modularity built in and baked in different sets is really strong, and this to me is a really charming example of a set that does stand alone very nicely, but also when combined with other sets is arguably even stronger. Now, the really cool thing about the kitchen is that it actually is fully detailed on the inside. It is a full-on kitchen where people can come in, enjoy food. It feels very lived in because there's a workable kitchen as well as food being distributed in all sorts of different delectable dishes. And on the very top, there's even a community area where people can gather and eat together, and a spiral staircase that really ties the entire build together. $68 might be a little bit high for this, but given the modular potential of it and the fact that it can combine with the larger LEGO Friends tower, which you can see right here, I feel like that absolutely made it deserve a spot on this list, making it one of the strongest LEGO Friends summer entries, retailing at $68, which, yeah, it's a little high, but honestly, nothing too crazy. But now let's move on to number 9. My number 9 pick comes from LEGO Monkey Kid, another original LEGO theme. This is the Yellow Tusk Elephant, retailing for $80 US. It is set number 80043 and provides a large-scale, bulky elephant build to feature one of the main villains of the latest season, the Yellow Tusk Elephant. Now, to me, this is a really fun set because it is a large-scale animal build that really does feel like the animal it is trying to represent. We've gotten an elephant-style walker from LEGO before in the form of the Mammoth Stomper from Chima, and while I love that set, that was more of an AT-AT than an elephant, whereas this, I feel, really captures the stout and sturdy proportions of an elephant itself. One of my favorite details is that not only is it fully posable, but they utilize the large hot air balloon piece introduced for LEGO Trolls World Tour as the belly of the elephant itself, which just feels so natural and organic, and there's even a fun play feature to allow the tusks to flip up and attack any approaching enemies. Now, one of my favorite details of the set itself is that there even is a brick-built detachable mech that kind of comes in the shape of the elephant himself. In the TV show, the Yellow Tusk Elephant is a massive beast, and he himself is just a character, absolutely towers over some of the other characters in the show, even some of the big figs. So they really tried to replicate that in the form of this build here. I got a chance to meet the LEGO designer during my latest trip to Bill in Denmark, and he actually mentioned that this was a way to actually give fans the elephant himself in a fully brick-built form to allow you to actually have the correct scale. And I am really grateful for that because that was such a good inclusion in the set and really just made it feel that much more special. Overall, this is a really fun set to play with. $80 feels pretty good for the set itself, and the minifigure selection is quite solid, with the Yellow Tusk Elephant leading the charge, but also a custom specialized armor set for May, Pigsy being captured, and 2 different ink demons as well. $80 does feel admittedly a little bit steep for what it is, and I mentioned this in my review as well. It feels like a set that was designed to be maybe 65 or 70, but given how good the set is, I couldn't not have it on the list, which is why it's taking its place as number 9, and let's now move on to number 8. At number 8 comes a set that has been hailed as one of the best Ninjago mech sets ever, and for pretty good reason. 71785 is Jay's Titan Mech, also retailing for $80. It features a large-scale Titan Lightning Mech for Jay, as well as a very small side build for the Bone Warrior faction. Now, this is such a good-looking mech to me, especially because I feel like this has a very unique stance compared to many of the other Ninjago mechs that have come before. It feels very unique and dynamic in its shaping, looking. The entire torso itself is bent forwards at a very strong angle, and yes, it does have knee articulation, which is really fantastic to see. Add to the fact that it has a very unique charging cable or ponytail on the back of the head itself, makes this one of the most uniquely designed Ninjago mechs that I've ever seen actually factored into a set itself. It feels very strongly anime inspired, the proportions are really crazy but in a good way, and overall the color scheme itself and the color blocking is really solid, with white and blue being an incredibly solid choice for a Ninjago mech. One of my favorite things about this build is just how different it is. It is somewhat hunched back, and of course with the hair at the back it almost feels like it has a braided ponytail on the back of the head. I just feel like that is such a unique choice for a Ninjago mech, and something unlike we've ever seen in anything coming from Ninjago in the past. Altogether, it's really fun to pose, it's very playable, and really the only downside is that admittedly it is a little bit fragile. It's pretty easy to knock certain pieces off the mech itself. It's not the most stable mech design, but what it lacks in stability, it makes up for in crazy aesthetics, and I love how you actually even have different swords and weapons that you can swap in and out of the set itself, really allowing it to have completely different stances and adding to the playability function of the set itself. Overall, $80 does finally feel like a pretty good price for the set after a wave of sets that honestly didn't really feel that well priced on this list, but now let's move on to number 7. For my number 7 pick, I return to LEGO Monkey Kid, in one of my favorite LEGO Monkey Kid sets, but unfortunately also one of the most overpriced LEGO Monkey Kid sets, which is why it is lower on the list as opposed to higher. This is set number 80047, Maze Guardian Dragon, and while in most regions it's close to $55 to $60 US, the United States price of the set is $75, which just doesn't make too much sense to me. Price aside though, this is a really strong dragon build. I would even argue to say it is maybe one of the best LEGO dragons that we've ever gotten in a brick build style. One of my favorite things about LEGO Ninjago dragons in general, and LEGO Monkey Kid dragons and Asian inspired dragons, are when LEGO actually attempts to do something unique with the head and have it be fully brick built. And this is an incredibly strong sculpt for the head itself, being 100% brick built and only relying on a couple stickers and prints to really give it life, with everything else having a very unique and oriental unique design. Now, what's really awesome about this set is that not only is it fully brick built for the head, but the entire torso is built in a very unique way. The torso itself curves up and down. It feels very Asian inspired in the way it's done. It feels like a traditional painting almost, and that is something that really does impress me about the set itself. Just the way that the different armor was accomplished on the set, making it feel intricate, layered, and fully detailed. And even the scales that stick out of the side of the back are fully color coordinated. Speaking of color coordination, the set itself is really nicely done for that department, with teal, lime green, regular green mixed in with white and gold. That is a color scheme that feels like it takes a lot of skill to make it work and especially make it transition very nicely from one shade of green to the next, but they really pulled it off on this particular dragon, making it one of the strongest dragons we have ever gotten from LEGO to date. Overall, I'm a big fan of this dragon. It is very poseable, the color scheme is phenomenal, I just love the amount of detailing included in the set. I only wish it was a little bit more reasonable in the United States because that price is just absolutely nuts, and I really do feel like this set deserves a lot better than that. But now it's time to move on to number 6. My number 6 pick is the Executor Super Star Destroyer Mini Scale. This is a LEGO Star Wars set which retails for $70 US, set number 75356, and it is a glorious return to mini scale sets after the last one we got was technically supposed to be a Comic-Con exclusive, and the ones before that were years ago. Now, LEGO actually states in the instructions they created this set due to massive fan demand for mini scale in the Star Wars line, and clearly that was a success because this is a really well done set. I feel like this is a really good way to depict capital ships like this one at a reasonable scale that doesn't break the bank but is still fully playable, swooshable, and allows you to do a lot of things with it. There's honestly not much I can actually say about the set other than it does have really fantastic greebly detail, it feels very realistic for what it is, and this definitely feels right at home in any sort of Star Wars fleet. I really love the way they've accomplished the angles and left a very minimal amount of studs on the side of the ship itself. Every single one of the studs, especially near the back of the ship, feels very intentional, and despite its smaller scale, you really do have this very nice angular shaping of the curvature of the way that the side panels fold around the main center body itself. Overall, it's a really solid and fun set to build. I'm a big fan of LEGO Star Wars returning to the midi scale, and for $70, this definitely does actually feel like it's pretty worth the price, which is kind of rare when it comes to a licensed set, and something that I'm very, very happy about, and I hope that LEGO will continue, and if rumors are anything to be believed, we might be seeing some Separatist flagships, yes, finally LEGO, oh my goodness, thank you, next year, but we'll have to see if those rumors are true. Now let's move on to number 5. For number 5, I went with set number 10313. This is the Wildflower Bouquet, retailing for $60 and part of the Botanical Collection. Do note that these two flowers are not included in the set. I just chose to stick them in the bouquet itself because I felt like it was very nice as a presentation. Now, in terms of the Botanical Collection as a whole, LEGO has been absolutely knocking it out of the park. From the original Flower Bouquet to the incredible Orchid set, the Bird of Paradise, and everything in between, I have been loving the Botanical Collection lineup, and this is no different. One of my favorite things about these sets is that they really teach you a lot about NPUs, or nice part usages. This flower here is utilizing oars as the petals, whereas this flower here is utilizing pirate hats recolored in magenta and purple. Everywhere you look, there are smart parts choices being utilized for a set like this, and it feels very vibrant on a shelf and is pretty much the perfect gift to give to a loved one, even if they're not really that into LEGO. I love the recolors of all these great pieces like the Construction armor piece that's hinged in yellow, you've got crowns in blue, just all sorts of very unique colors that you don't typically see in LEGO sets, and this was a really strong offering for the Botanical Collection, rivaling the original Flower Bouquet in terms of its sheer vibrancy and brilliance. Overall, I always feel like a set like this deserves a spot on the list. Typically, whenever LEGO does a Wildflower or Flower Bouquet, or even something like the Orchids, it ends up on the best sets of the year list because they are just so creative, so clever, and so inventive in their parts usages, and this one is no different. $60 is a pretty good price given the sheer quantity of pieces that you get, and of course it doesn't come with its own vase, but thankfully that means the entirety of the parts budget was spent on the flowers themselves, which is really, really nice. And with that, we can move on to our next pick. My number 4 pick is a LEGO Ninjago set, the Temple of the Dragon Energy Cores. This is a set that retails for $95, making it the most expensive item on this list at the moment. It is set number 71795. Now, the Temple of the Dragon Energy Cores has been designed by new LEGO Ninjago designer Lee, and I really absolutely am incredibly impressed by the amount of shaping that has been done for the temple to be built in a very intricate manner, but also have an incredibly organic tree being built into the side of it, making this truly feel at home in a very nature-inspired design. Fall is one of my favorite seasons. It probably is my favorite season. If you've seen LEGO Masters, you know what I'm talking about, but this is a really nice build for me because I feel like it is very charming and classic. It has a beautiful fall tree growing out of the side of a temple. What's not to like about it? It just feels like a very solid set overall. Now, the Temple of the Dragon Energy Cores comes with a number of different minifigures, but really the focus is on the temple itself, and the one thing I really like about the set is that despite the fact that it is a large-scale display model, there are a lot of play features factored in. There are features for the temple to collapse and break down, for the bridge to fall, for books to fall on our unsuspecting heroes' heads. There's a lot of play possibilities in the temple itself, and once you really get up close to the details themselves, you can see just how much effort went into sculpting this beautiful looking pagoda, with of course the golden dragon energy core being at the center of the set itself. One thing I really love about the set is the way the bridge is built actually. The curvature of the bridge is really solid, it feels very organic and natural for the set itself, and I'm definitely a big fan of the sculpting that went into making the set a reality. Honestly, there's not much else I have to say about the set. Ninjago has once again knocked it out of the park with an incredible temple build, and this being only $95 is the icing on the cake because $95 for a building this big, doing so much with it, is really, really solid, and I'm very happy with the price of the set. But now it's time to move in to the top 3. At number 3, we have one of the two always fantastic Lunar New Year sets. This is set number 80110 Lunar New Year Display, which retails for $90 US. Now this is a pretty unorthodox set. As you can see, it pretty much is just a 2D style display where you have two different styles of displays for the Lunar New Year, but to me, I feel like these are some of LEGO's best display pieces yet. Each one of them is very dynamic, and it really truly feels like they are alive and they have so much interesting depth to them. This one has some koi fish swimming around a pond that are built really nicely. Love the usage of the cloud pieces, almost mimicking like churn in the water or foam. You have some very nicely printed elements with the 2x4s here, and of course the 3x3 circle tiles here, which are really fantastic to get fully printed. And then on the other side, you have a really nice, almost botanical style display with this beautiful flower. You've got some gold clouds going alongside of it. Of course, you have some of the printed butterflies which were just introduced. All in all, this is a really beautiful display piece, and I'm a big fan of how all of it comes together as a massive display icon. Now, it is a pretty unorthodox set, and I will admit I personally kind of liked the other Lunar New Year set better, which is a little bit priced out of this particular list because that one was a really fun parade referencing older LEGO themes, but as a home decor piece, this is one of those LEGO sets that I really feel could totally fit in someone's home. Even if they're not a LEGO fan, they're just really nice display pieces. I know what I'm getting my girlfriend for Christmas, and all in all, this is a really nice looking LEGO set. I think that it is a really great celebration of culture of the Lunar New Year, and that's why I felt like it deserved a spot on this list. But now, let's move on to number 2. Coming in at number 2 on this list is set number 21342 from the LEGO Ideas theme. This is the Insect Collection, retailing for $80 US. Now what I love about this set is that this of course is based off of a winning LEGO Ideas fan design, but LEGO really went above and beyond when actually depicting this and transforming the original submission into a full-on display model. You don't just get the insects, you get these beautiful classy little pieces of nature and ground elements that really add so much life to the scenes themselves. And much like other LEGO sets that factor in a few different components, you can build this separately, meaning you can get up to 3 different people building one set, which always adds a lot of fun to the set. My favorite is the praying mantis, so we'll take a look at that last and really focus in on the butterfly first. This is a really beautiful design. It is probably one of the most simplistic out of all the insects here, basically just using panels mounted at a slight angle, but I really do appreciate the inclusion of special new prints on the edges of the wings. Even the bee has a little print on the egg which looks really nice, and I'm glad they included the bee as well. And the flower on the ground is actually one of the best parts of the entire set. Definitely feels like it could belong in something like the Botanical Collection, utilizing the new Donkey Kong plant leaves as well as the Chima spikes, flower elements, Minion's hair, all great parts usages in the flower, and really just crafting a gorgeous scene with the butterfly mounted on some sort of a wooden branch sticking out of the ground. This is the kind of model that can really be viewed and appreciated from every single angle, and I really just love the presentation of the build itself. Moving on to the beetle here, the beetle is really cool because you can actually display it with the wings closed if you would like. You have the choice to actually remove the wings, just literally take them out and then actually close up the back here of the carapace, which I think is really cool, but I personally would love to display it with the wings out. I feel like it definitely does add a lot of flavor to the beetle itself. The thing that impresses me the most about the set are the building techniques, achieving naturalistic angles while utilizing just standard LEGO pieces. You have nexo shields being used for the bits and pieces of the wings, curvature elements being used for the carapace. You even have a long tentacle or tail element for the front jaw and mandible of the beetle itself, and of course it is sitting on some sort of piece of decayed log or bark, which definitely does add a lot to the set itself, especially with the mushrooms growing up alongside it as well. But of course my favorite is the praying mantis, which is a really classic icon of the set here. They have recolored the Ninjago Possession Ghost Blades in standard lime green, which is really interesting to see them do that, especially for the set, but it really does work. It is great piece usage that they used there, and all in all, this is just such a really strong model. You have even a little ladybug, a nod to the original submission on the branch itself, and the praying mantis is perched at a precarious seeming angle, utilizing using sand green revolvers as the ends of the feet. This is truly a masterclass in building techniques, in building styles, and really just taught me a lot about different ways to use Lego pieces in unique fashions, and that's why I feel like this deserved a really high spot on this list, just because of how good and how nicely detailed every single one of the builds are. And it truly feels like a collection, having the insect collection of different characters. But now let's move on to number 1. And finally, coming in at number 1 is my personal top pick of the best LEGO set that released this year between $50 to $100, and this may come as no surprise to anyone. It's set number 41757, Botanical Garden, retailing for $80 US. Now, the Botanical Garden is, simply put, a beautiful set, and I am not the only person who thinks this. In fact, this was probably one of the best-selling sets of the year. I remember when it first came out, it immediately sold out, which is really rare for a LEGO Friends set to sell out basically immediately, but it really goes to show just how good LEGO Friends got this year, and how it really stepped up its game as a LEGO theme. The Botanical Garden is admittedly only half of a building, but thankfully there are a lot of instructions out there to convert it into a full-on building by buying 2 copies of the set, which is actually something that I did by buying a second copy of the set and putting out a full video on how to make it into a modular building. But overall, it is just truly beautiful as a set itself. I love how they were able to use the LEGO City glass dome window elements to really make this a large kind of domed structure. It feels very solid as a build itself, and I just love the way the plants are done as well. Recoloring these saxophone pieces in a lighter green is such a smart idea. Using the broom pieces is so smart to be integrated into this build. Everything about this build is just so solid to me, and what's not to like about it? Well, maybe the fact that only half the building is there, but that really encourages a lot of modding potential, and it truly feels like probably the greatest LEGO Friends set ever made. Maybe that's controversial given the amount of insane LEGO Friends sets we got this year, but it truly feels like an achievement, a remarkable achievement in LEGO building design for a set like this. I could go on and on about this set. The beautiful little duck pond, duck bricks after all, has to be partial to the duck pond. The incredible color scheme, sand green, tan, and white is such a good color scheme to be factored into a building like this. The cast of characters, the mini dolls themselves are really nice and diverse. They're actually Asian presenting minifigures, which are really nice to see. And of course, those incredible tree builds. This Botanical Garden is truly phenomenal, and I cannot wait to see what LEGO is cooking for LEGO Friends next year if this year's sets are anything to go by, because LEGO Friends had 2 sets on the list this year, and don't worry, because for future lists, there's a lot more coming. Alright, and with that, we've summed up our look at the top 10 best $50 to $100 LEGO sets that came out in 2023. Of course, you gotta let me know if you agree or disagree. Thanks so much for watching this video, and there's so much more to come, because after this, we dive into the big ones. The over $100 sets. A category so large, we had to split it up between licensed and non-licensed, with licensed ones coming in a few days, and non-licensed coming after that as the grand finale. And so, let's sum up this video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thank you so much, and bye for now.